When people say like fake it till you make it, or they say just tell yourself until it's true, I know it sounds woo-woo, and it's not manifesting anything. You can't control anything outside of yourself. Let's just say that right now. We're not talking about manifesting things like I would like to have $1 million, and I'm going to believe that $1 million is in front of me until it appears. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is internal growth of your own mindset. It's not external. I'm going to stare at this thing until it magically appears. We're not Houdini, right? We're not doing that kind of stuff. But what we're talking about is what you push down that channel of your neuro pathways will become true to you, whether it's true in the world or not. Welcome back to the Culture-Based Podcast. I'm Dustin. He's Blake. Episode 93. Today we're talking about limiting beliefs that are holding back your scalability. It's going to be a big episode. You might want to put it on half speed or listen to it twice. But we're going to have some exciting resources for you in the show notes as well if you haven't already discovered those. But before we get into today's topic, I want to remind you that at the Culture Base, we're here to help leaders know what they're about, show where they're going, and develop a scalable team to get them there. You can find all the information you want about the Culture Base and all of our free resources at theculturebase.com. All right. So because it's a loaded episode, we're going to jump right in today to the problem of limiting beliefs. Let's get into it.
So I think limiting beliefs have many problems. It's not just like one key problem. The biggest problem of limiting beliefs is that we have them and we don't realize it half the time. Right. I think this is where we need to start, is that you have gotten, it's like, do you remember Febreze? I mean, they're like weird. Like, do you remember that one thing?
I think it still exists
predominantly.
I think it still exists, but in college, it was definitely a bigger piece of my life.
Yeah. All right. So Febreze, I always love the story of Febreze because they almost went bankrupt, like almost closed up shop because they were marketing to the wrong message, essentially. And you can read a whole bunch about it, but the one thing that they realized is they were like, wow, this product is amazing. It can cover up the smell of cat so well. And so they went to all these cat owners and they were like, here, check this out. And like, nobody bought it. And what they realized was people got so used to the smell, they didn't realize it was there.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So the idea, these cat enthusiasts did not buy Febreze because the idea was, who cares? Like it smells fine. Everything's great here. There is no cat smell. That's the same thing about limiting beliefs, is that we have them in our lives and we're so used to them, we don't realize that they're limiting beliefs. We treat them like actual truths. And so when you believe this limiting belief is truth, it's just status quo. It is what it is, right? And so the first thing I would say is leaders don't recognize their own limiting beliefs, and that is capping their growth hard. It is keeping them from potentials that they absolutely can hit, but because they have this limiting belief, it's halting progress. The next type of limiting belief, I think, that's a problem is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? These limiting beliefs, real quick, actually, I think in the past, when we think about like doing mantras or like, oh, I'm going to say this thing over and over, we get real weirded out, right? Like we're like, oh, it's a little woo-woo for me, a little Eastern. I don't know how I feel about this. The problem is you've always done it. Yeah. We do this day in and day out with limiting beliefs. We have these concepts or ideas that we're like, oh, this is just truth. And we say it over and you can't overcome. You tried one time and failed. You tried one time and failed. Oh, that one sucks, right? Those self-fulfilling prophecies they're right. I don't remember who said it. I think it was actually Ford or Edison or some other big guy said that whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It might have been Disney even. So the point is, the self-fulfilling prophecy, when your mind is full of garbage about how you cannot do something, you're right. and it will be the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just add to that real quick. It's the neuro pathways, and we'll get into this probably a little bit later. But the things that you tell yourself, like your brain doesn't necessarily always know the difference between true and false outside of what you tell it, right? So there's these neuro pathways in your brain, and it was described to me, and just to give you a visual, imagine them just being like trenches or ditches where water flow through, right? You want water to leave a certain way, you kind of dig a trench, you let the water go through that way, right? So that these neural pathways in your brain, they're trenches, right? And so whatever water, whatever message, whatever thing you send down that channel over and over again, it will form to that. So your brain literally starts to believe whatever you tell it. So when people say like fake it till you make it, or they say just tell yourself until it's true, I know it sounds woo-woo, and it's not manifesting anything. You can't control anything outside of yourself. Let's just say that right now. We're not talking about manifesting things like I would like to have $1 million, and I'm going to believe that $1 million is in front of me until it appears. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is internal growth of your own mindset. It's not external. I'm going to stare at this thing until it magically appears. We're not Houdini, right? We're not doing that kind of stuff. But what we're talking about is what you push down that channel of your neuro pathways will become true to you, whether it's true in the world or not. It will become true to you.
Yeah, that's good. You know, there's that whole idea that we have 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yep.
And a lot of those are negative. A lot of those aren't yours. A lot of them you didn't even it didn't come from you. It was external and
picked up on it along the way.
Yeah. We believe it is the thing. Yeah. Part of that self-talk and that I'm sure we'll get into in solutions, but part of that is putting the right stuff in place so that when you see it over and over, your reticular activating system, which is at the base of your brain, it's the thing that like when you go out and buy a new car, all of a sudden you see these cars everywhere and you're like, wow, they must have like really been booming. No, you're just seeing that a whole bunch now and your brain's telling you it's important because you said it's important. We said like your brain believes something's important by the amount of times it's said, not by the truth. Right? Because otherwise we want to have a problem with limiting beliefs, but we do have a problem with limiting beliefs because we've said them over and over. Therefore our brain said it must be true. Okay. This is not your brain's not a good fact checker. I think you need to probably believe that right there. Yeah.
I think I shared this on a recent episode. Maybe it was on a different episode of another podcast that I was doing, but I heard recently a speaker say, you know, he gave this statistic. He goes, hey, you know, research has shown that by the end of your life, you have spent 100% of your time with yourself. But the idea was that we're going back to those 60,000 thoughts a day. Like the self-talk, like I know, again, we're not trying to get woo-woo here, but the self-talk, again, what you feed your brain becomes true. You're the one, you spend the most time with yourself than anyone else.
Yeah.
No one else spends more time with you than you. And so because of that, no one else talks to you more than you. You might not verbally out loud go around mumbling to yourself. Maybe not do that. But you know, subconsciously, there's all sorts of things going on throughout the day. Blake mumbles to himself. It's fine.
I do. I talk to myself all the time.
Out loud. Got to.
I do. When I go on walks, I'm talking to myself.
I'm with it.
Anyway, a couple other things that I think are important in problems here. If it's also true that it's not just the thoughts you think that equate to that 60,000, but it's the things other people say too. Just know that just as much as inspiration is, or like excellence and things are contagious. Yeah. So is complacency and limiting beliefs.
That's so good.
If you understand that all thoughts can be addictive at some level, you treat it differently.
Yeah.
And I would just say that our limiting beliefs, us dealing with our own internal beliefs, which is, by the way, you can only work on you. You can help others to a certain degree, but you can't change others. So you can only work on you, which means that you working on your own limiting beliefs is also helping those in your proximity help with their limiting beliefs, or if they believe that limiting belief as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Beliefs have a problem of becoming really convenient excuses, right? Like if we don't push through a challenge, it's because it's always been that way. I can never get enough money. I never win when this happens. Oh, I bought the lottery ticket and I never win. Like, yeah, like probability, guys. Like, come on. One person gets that there, but that limiting belief is so bad for you because it gives you go to the finish line before you even start. And that's just not okay. You have anything else you would hit on this, Dustin?
Yeah, I would just say like what we're talking about here today is not how these limiting beliefs just not necessarily only hold you back. They do hold you back, but because they're holding you back, they're holding your organization back. Right. And so organizations have these plateaus, and the plateaus, I would say, usually come from someone's limiting belief that's leading that organization. And so the analogy we give here is that it's like driving with your parking brake on and you wonder why you can't go faster. But it's because you are creating your own resistance. And so if you can learn how to disengage that parking brake so that you can go, like it's under your control. It's things that you can control. So this is a looking in the mirror episode, if you will.
I also think one of the healthiest thoughts that I think a lot, like this is one I intentionally put in my path as much as I can. And that is, the best way to inspire your team and to grow your team is to be in constant breakthrough. If I'm in constant breakthrough, it's going to be contagious. In order to break through, you have to break through something. It tends to be limiting beliefs.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Let's get into the solution. I have a real simple solution for you today. Now, before we get too deep into this solution, and again, it's not going to be very deep, but I want to just kind of put this disclaimer out there that we are not mental health professionals of any kind. We are just two business owners, leaders who can empathize with where you're at and have been through these things before and have seen them work time and time again, not only for us, but for our teams as well. And so our solution today is very, very simple. It's three things. Number one, identify your current beliefs. Identify and challenge your current beliefs. Number two, replace those with empowering beliefs. And I'm going to pause there for a second. If you just identify and don't replace, or if you just remove and don't replace, that gap, again, going back to that neuropathway kind of tunnel looking ditch or trench analogy that I was giving earlier, something will fill that space. And so if you're not, I'm going to use my favorite word here, Blake, if you're not intentional about putting in replacing those limiting beliefs, then other limiting beliefs will just come in from other locations.
Yeah.
So it's identify and challenge, replace with the empowering beliefs. And your third step is to embed the new beliefs systematically. So like Blake says, he goes on walks and he's out there talking to himself, or one thing that he says to himself a lot is blank, right? It's a system for him. He's built it in. And so he's repeating those. You can't just say, okay, I used to believe this and now I believe this. There, did it. No. Has to be repeated, which is in the embedding part. Repeating the embedding part over and over and over again with the new beliefs, and build systems around that. Hey, every morning in my, like for me, every morning in my morning pages that I write, I write two things down before I write anything else. Number one, I write, what is my purpose? And I have a purpose statement that I've crafted, and I write that purpose statement out every single morning because I want it to be ingrained into my neuropathways. And then I write each of my personal values. I am this, I am this, I am that, until I believe it. And then you know what? I keep doing it. Even though I believe it now, I keep doing it over and over again. And I start to live out those values, and I start to live out that purpose because I have systematically embedded them into my new beliefs. Anything you want to add to that, Blake, before we get into some expert insight?
Yeah. So this idea of identify, replace, and embed, it's not simple. It takes work. Right. And the system can look different for different people, and you should try many things. Okay. Like just be an investigator of how to do this. Yeah. For me, a lot of probably 3 or 4 years straight, I worked through the idea of a thing called The Model by Brooke Castillo. She was a life coach, and she talked about how like circumstances are neutral. It's your thoughts about circumstances that create your feelings. Your feelings drive your actions, and your actions create your results. And so when we would mindset work, what you would do is you would start at the result. Like, what is the end? Okay, cool. What actions do I have to do in order to accomplish that said result? Yeah. Cool. Now, what feelings do I need to have? Okay, I need to be opportunistic. I need to be blah, blah, blah. Okay, now what thoughts will drive that?
Yeah.
That's mapping your neural pathway.
Right.
Does it actually map how your brain? Probably not, but it is mapping a neural pathway and showing your points of thought, feeling, action, result. Thought, feeling, action, result. And that is the identifying the thought, replacing it, right, with a good thought so that you have the right feelings, right actions, right results.
Yeah, and what Blake is describing there is known as cognitive behavioral therapy. And so if you are in a situation where you do see a counselor or a therapist, which I recommend everybody do no matter how healthy you think you are, talk to them about like, hey, I feel like I want to change some of my behaviors, but I know that it starts with my mindset. Can we dig into some cognitive behavioral therapy a little bit? And it will work. I've been through it myself. It 100% works. So we're not the experts here. And so we want to give you some expert advice, and we're just going to share with you some things that we've learned. There's 4 or 5 books here that we're going to kind of mention, and we're going to kind of hit high level on. All of these books, the links to them will be in our show notes, whatever you're listening or watching this on. If you look in the description of this episode, you'll see the links for these books. But let's just dive right in. The first one we want to talk about is from a Stanford psychologist and author of the book Mindset, Carol Dweck. She talks about this growth mindset research. Now, Blake, I know you read that book. You want to share a little bit about Carol Dweck's growth mindset?
Yeah, I want to say she was one of the first people to really give that growth versus fixed mindset, if I remember that book right.
She's a pioneer of that, for sure.
She's a pioneer of like understanding that there is this mind, like you basically can separate people into those 2 categories, those who believe those kind of things first, those who actually believe, hey, we can keep growing. Growth mindset believes like we can be developed and learn as we go, and we have the power inside of us. We just got to figure it out as we go. And a lot of fixed mindset says, I'm not there already, so oh well, like can't do it apparently, never going to work. Like it's a lot of those types of things. Companies with growth mindset cultures show 47% higher revenue growth over time. She did such a good job of highlighting those types of things, because it's so easy to be like, what's it matter? They just need to do what they're told. No. The revenue is drastically higher from those who actually have this type of growth mindset, because the people with growth mindset themselves are pioneers of what they're doing, and they're going to figure out creative solves instead of waiting. Like if they're just supposed to do what they're supposed to do in your mindset, then they shouldn't be creative. They shouldn't have these abilities to overcome things. They should just do whatever you tell them, i.e. you're a bottleneck.
Right. And they're modeling that constant breakthrough, right? So the next expert we want to highlight is one of my favorites, Brene Brown. She's author of many books, and one of her books, Rising Strong, is one that I give to just about any leader that I come across or coach or do business with in any way, shape, or form, because she makes this point, and I want to point this out because we're talking to business leaders, business owners, business managers. There's this in any field, there's going to be hurt, pain, disappointment, right? It's going to happen. So thinking through how you're going to respond to that before it happens is not worrying about it. It's just going, hey, I'm going to be intentional about when it comes. This is how I'm going to respond. I did this many years ago because anytime something in our house broke, like a washing machine would break down, or we need the AC repair or something, like it would just wreck me completely, because I would be like, oh, we didn't plan for this. Like, where we gonna get the money for this? Like, I hate spending money on this stuff, and it would just wreck me forever. But once I came to the notion that these things actually like they're going to happen. So you need to prepare your response in advance. Now I just let them roll off my shoulders. And Brene says this. She says that shame resilience is the ability to say, hey, look, this hurts. This is disappointing. It might even be devastating, but success and recognition and approval are not the values that are going to drive me. That's not what's going to be the driver here. And so organizations need to create, we've talked about this on the podcast before, they need to create psychological safety to be able to challenge those limiting beliefs from the top down. And at the top, the leaders have got to model vulnerability by admitting when beliefs aren't serving growth. And so if, hey, you as a leader, you identify a belief in yourself or in your team and it's not serving your business, you need to call it out, you need to identify it, you need to replace it, right? And you need to embed it systematically into your culture, right? I want to move quickly on to the next one, expert. This is Phil Stutz. Phil Stutz wrote a book called The Tools. He's also the main subject of a documentary on Netflix called Stutz, S-T-U-T-Z. In the documentary, it's Jonah Hill, actor Jonah Hill, who meets with Phil Stutz because Phil is his therapist. He's a therapist to a lot of celebrities. But his tools are incredible. And so he talks about several things. He talks about the reversal of desire, right? Hey, instead of avoiding painful growth challenges, move towards them. My friend Chris, who speaks at churches, he gives this message a lot, and he talks about how buffaloes will run towards the storm, right? When a storm is coming, they won't move around it and try to skate it, causing more damage in the path. That they'll just go right through it. And so he's saying here, this is the reversal of desire. Stop trying to avoid painful growth. Instead, move towards them because it's in them that you learn and grow. Yes, it might be painful, but you're going to be better for it if you go through it rather than trying to avoid it. He talks about active love, replacing judgment of team capabilities with active investment in their growth. He talks about the inner authority. Leaders must develop conviction that transcends external limitations. We're going to move real quickly through these, but check out Phil Stutz's book, The Tools. Blake, you want to hit our next expert?
Yeah, so this one, and think what you will about him, Napoleon Hill, but the book Think and Grow Rich, right? So just to give real quick context, like Napoleon Hill was more of a, I would honestly say a researcher. Okay. So what he got wasn't necessarily his. It was the fact that he went and studied successful people like Carnegie, Ford, Edison, and then understood common principles between them all. Okay. So regardless of him, wrote a really good book. Hits certain concepts like desire, like having an abundance of desire for your goal. Again, that's all here. Even though you may have it as a passion, like it's got to start in your head. He talked about how all of these guys had auto-suggestion, which is using positive self-talk like we're talking about to influence your subconscious mind. Right. So it's you say it over and over and over and you start believing it. And then when you're asleep, you're believing it. Right. Yeah. Or when you're just responding to things, you believe it. He hit a bunch in that book. I don't know that I would go too much deeper except for just that one. And another one is he talks a lot about persistence and continuing despite obstacles and temporary defeats. Like all these great leaders had that in common.
Yeah. Yeah. And then our last one, Daniel Kahneman's cognitive bias research done in Thinking Fast and Slow. Blake, I know you have read that one as well. You want to share some quick thoughts on that one before we move on to action steps?
Yeah. I mean, this one's a real heady book, by the way. Like, don't be like, oh, I think I'm going to go for a walk and read this book.
Light read.
It's not. It is like, I think it took me, you know how in audiobooks, it's like, this will take 35 hours to read. And you're like, cool, I'll get that done in half. I think it took me like 65 hours to read because it was just so deep, but it goes into just core frameworks about how like there are different types of thinking. You've got fast and automatic, intuitive, emotional decision-making thinking, which is more the back of your brain. And then you've got your slow, deliberate, logical effort analysis side of your brain, which is the prefrontal cortex. And so he goes into how we have certain cognitive biases based on those, and how, and believe me, I am not going to do this book justice, but it is a really good book to show how the understanding the mental shortcuts, like overconfidence, framing different effects, loss aversion, all these different tools or whatever, it basically helps with these mental shortcuts and the biases to improve decision making. Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times we're like, I think this is right because it feels right. It might be, but also we've learned that gut feelings are usually 50-50. So it's a hard one to call out there.
Yeah. I love it. Let's get into the action steps. All right. So here, I want to just quickly run through in the last few minutes that we have some common limiting beliefs and some replacements. I don't want to just give you the theory behind here. I want to give you some real, like, hey, maybe you've had this thought before. Here's how to replace it, and here's how to support it and embed it. So let's say, for example, hiring, right? Hey, we can't find good people anymore. We hear that all the time. Just can't find good people. Just can't find good help, right? That's a limiting belief. Instead, you can say, hey, great people are out there, and we need to improve our attraction and our assessment strategies, right? Brene Brown emphasizes that when we lead with scarcity thinking, that we create scarcity outcomes. So there's many different hiring limiting beliefs, like, hey, millennials and Gen Zs, they don't want to work hard. Blake's preached about this on this podcast many, many times. Instead, hey, you know what? Different generations bring different strengths, and we need to understand and leverage those strengths as much as possible. Hey, we can't compete with the big company benefits. That might be true, but hey, instead we offer unique value that big companies can't, like flexibility, growth, impact, and culture. And I want to say this real quick here, just throw this in. I meant to mention it earlier in the solution. In our house, when it comes to our thoughts, we and I forget where we heard this from. So this is not like an original Pete family thought. But in our house, we say, hey, before you speak, you need to ask yourself what you're about to say. Is it true? Is it helpful? And is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? So first off, if your thought is true, okay, move on. But if it's not, shut it down. Right? You've identified that it's not true, replace it, embed it with something else. Secondly, is it helpful? Like, is what you're going to say actually helpful? Like, really think this through here. Or do you just feel the urge, I got to get it out? You know what I mean? And then is it kind? Those three things as a leader, I think, will greatly impact your culture if you can start embedding those things. Yeah, like,
you know, I think, I don't remember what movie it was, and you'll be able to fix this, I'm sure. But something tells me it was the movie Love and Basketball. Do you remember that from back in the day?
I do remember that movie, yeah.
I think it was this kid who was, I think it was the main character as a kid. He was like, I think it had to do with, he was trying something in basketball, and he's like, man, I can't do this shit. And his dad was like, hey, what'd I say about using that word? And he was like, don't say can't. Like, and it was just that was the worst word right there. And it is the more toxic word than even saying shit, right? So it's just that kind of positive self-belief has great effects on everything in your culture. Right. Everything.
Yeah, for sure. So if we're talking about growth and scaling your business, right? Hey, we're too small to implement real systems, right? But you can replace that with, hey, right-sized systems create the foundation for sustainable growth. And just, I'll put a plug here. Next week, we're going to talk about processes and systems. So tune into that. And we'll talk about some right-sized systems that create that foundation for you. Hey, our industry or business, it's different, right? The normal rules don't apply. I hate hearing this. Well, it's different in our industry. Baloney. It's not different. Listen, while our industry has unique aspects, fundamental business principles still apply, right? Yep. So that's a replacement of your belief. Hey, if we grow too fast, quality is going to suffer. Baloney. That's false. It's limiting belief. But you can't replace it with, hey, with the right systems and people, we can maintain quality while scaling. Getting into some leadership limiting beliefs. Hey, no one can do it as well as I can. That might be true, but it's an extremely limiting belief. Others can do it differently and often better when properly trained and empowered. Say that to yourself. instead. Hey, I don't have time to train people. We hear this all the time. I don't have time to train people. My response usually is, you don't have time not to. That's usually my response. But you can replace that with training people is the only way to create time in the long run. And that's essentially what I'm saying when I say you don't have time not to.
I think too, with what you were just saying on some of this stuff, arrogance is a limiting belief.
Ooh, give it to him, Blake.
It is. Arrogance is a limiting belief because it lacks curiosity, because it believes that I am and nobody else can do it like I can. And never once considers that maybe somebody can do it better.
Oh, come on with it. That's so true. So true. One more one here for leadership. Our team isn't ready for more responsibility. How about you replace that with our team will rise to meet clear expectations with proper support, right? So it's all about what you give them. Some financial limiting beliefs as well before we close up here. We can't afford to invest in systems, people, training right now. And again, this is going to go back to what I said. You can't afford not to invest. Right? So a lot of these things, it's just to say the opposite. We can't do this. You can't not do it. Like you just say that instead. We can't not afford to invest. Strategic investments, that's what fuels the growth, right? It's that constant breakthrough that Blake was talking about earlier. Spending money on culture, training, development is a luxury. It's a limiting belief. Culture and development investments have a measurable ROI. We did a whole episode about that recently. Go back and listen to it. They have actual measurable ROI in retention and performance. Anything else you want to add to this, Blake, before we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole we've said it a bunch, but I have no problem saying it again, that culture might seem expensive, but it doesn't cost a thing. Like when you break it down at the end of the day, it is a net zero, right? You lose 10, 15, 20 people, you've lost the investment of whatever that is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that in there on that one.
I love it. So the next steps today are simple. Check out in the links in the show notes. Go read these books, dive into them, buy them for you and your team. Really start to break these limiting beliefs that are holding back your organization. Also visit theculturebase.com/strategy for a free strategy session with us on any of these things that we've talked about today or previous episodes. You can download free resources from us, including our free ebook at theculturebase.com/resources. Next time, we'll be back with you, episode 94, and we're going to kind of start to ease our way back into some more of the A player stuff. We're going to talk about how to take B players to A players. It's going to be a great time. Can't wait to talk to you about that next time on the Culture Base Podcast.